Get ready, because in this special video, we're going to explore the 12 obvious signs that there is an evil person on your side. Have you ever had that feeling that someone close to you is not what they seem? As the philosopher Seneca said, evil is often hidden under the appearance of good. And boy, was he right. But don't worry, because in this video, you will not only learn how to identify these people, but I will also show you exactly how you should act with each type of individual. At the end of the video, I will reveal to you the most surprising and common sign that we all overlook and explain how we can use it to our advantage. Before we begin, if you find value in these videos, please subscribe and click the bell to stay updated. Let us begin. Let's go with the first sign: pleasure in other people's pain. Have you ever wondered if you are surrounded by people with dark intentions? Imagine this: you're in the office, you trip and spill your coffee. As you struggle to clean up the mess, you notice your coworker sneaking a smile. Does it sound familiar to you? Well, you've just witnessed a classic example of what psychologists call Schadenfreude. This German term, which literally means joy at the harm of others, is more common than you think. According to a study from the University of Würzburg, up to 30% of people admit to having experienced this feeling at some point. But what happens when someone seems to constantly enjoy the suffering of others? This is where things get interesting, friends. Evil people don't just experience Schadenfreude occasionally. They actively search for it. It's as if they had a radar to detect other people's misery and they fed on it. But don't worry, we're not suggesting you become a paranoid detective. We just want you to be alert. Observe how people around you react when someone is going through a bad time. Do they offer help or secretly gloat? Philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once said, "To feel envy is human. To enjoy the misfortune of others is diabolical." And boy, was he right. A person who constantly finds pleasure in the pain of others is like an emotional vampire, draining the joy and positivity of those around them. But hey, all is not lost. Recognizing this sign is the first step to protecting yourself. If you identify someone like that in your life, it doesn't mean you should cut ties immediately. Sometimes a little compassion and honest dialogue can work wonders. After all, even Darth Vader had his moment of redemption, right? So next time you see someone smile when you stumble, pay attention. It could be a simple involuntary reaction, or it could be the tip of the iceberg of a darker personality. Remember, to be informed is to be armed, and in this case, your weapon is knowledge. Number 2, need to control your life. Have you ever felt like someone is trying to control every aspect of your life, as if you had an invisible puppet master pulling your strings? Well, friends, now let's dive into the fascinating world of control freaks, and believe me, it's not as fun as it sounds. Imagine for a moment that you are a poor little mouse in a maze, and there is someone out there moving the walls as they please. Frustrating, right? Well, that's what it feels like to be around an evil person with a need for control. It's as if they want to be the director of the movie of your life, but without asking your permission. But why do these people feel this overwhelming need to control everything? Well, according to manipulation and behavior expert Dr. George Simon, this is due to a deep insecurity and fear of chaos. It's as if they thought, if I don't control everything, the world is going to fall apart. Poor things, right? Now let's not confuse these people with your worried grandmother who wants to know if you've put on your coat. We're talking about a level of control that would make even a dictator say, "Hey, relax a little." These evil control-craving people are like emotional vacuum cleaners. They suck up all your energy and freedom, leaving you feeling empty and exhausted. Does it sound familiar to you? If so, you are not alone. Many people find themselves trapped in these toxic dynamics without realizing it. But all is not lost, friends. As the philosopher Epictetus said, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how to respond to them. And boy, was Epictetus right. The key is to recognize the signs. Does your boss obsessively check every comma of your reports? Does your partner want to know where you are 24 hours a day? Does your friend get angry if you don't follow his advice to the letter? Red alert, you are facing a potential compulsive controller. But don't worry, you don't need to move to a cave in the Himalayas to escape. There are ways to handle these situations without losing your sanity or your sense of humor. Setting clear boundaries is essential. It's like putting up a "no trespassing" sign in your personal life. And if it doesn't work, you can always pretend to lose your phone signal every time they call you. Oops, it's cut off. Remember, my friend, that your life is yours and no one else's. Don't let anyone turn you into their personal puppet. Be the director of your own movie and make it one of those that wins awards, not a low-budget drama. Number 3, strange feeling when you are in his presence. Have you ever had that strange feeling like something doesn't fit when you're around certain people? Imagine you are at a party. The music plays, people laugh, but suddenly someone walks in and bang! The environment changes. You don't know why, but you feel uncomfortable. It's like your internal radar is going off. Alert, alert, toxic person in sight. But what is really happening? It turns out that our body is smarter than we think. According to Dr. Antonio Damasio, a neuroscientist at the University of Southern California, our brain is constantly processing information that we don't even know we are receiving. It's like having a built-in lie detector, but much cooler. And it's not just a matter of modern science. Our ancestors already knew about this. Chinese philosopher Confucius once said, "When you walk with two people, you can learn from both." But what she didn't say is that you can also sense when one of them is an emotional vampire who wants to steal all your positive energy. Now, don't be scared. We are not saying that you become a hermit and distrust everyone, but do pay attention to those subtle signs. Do you feel exhausted after talking to someone? Do you notice that your mood changes when a certain person is around? That could be your sixth sense working overtime. But how do you distinguish between a temporary bad vibe and a really toxic person? Here's a trick. Consistency. If every time you see Juan, you feel like you've run a marathon, and not in a good way, maybe it's time to ask yourself if Juan is the best company for you. And no, we are not suggesting that Juan is the villain of a superhero movie. Sometimes the people who make us feel bad don't have bad intentions, but that doesn't mean we should ignore our feelings. As psychologist Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. So the next time you feel that tickle in your stomach or that tension in your shoulders when someone approaches, don't ignore it. Your body could be trying to tell you something important. It's like having a superpower. Well, maybe you can't fly or read minds, but hey, spotting toxic people is a pretty useful skill these days, don't you think? Number 4, lack of responsibility. Have you ever met someone who seems to have an excuse for everything? Imagine this. You are in a work meeting and your colleague is late. Again. "The traffic was horrible," he exclaims. But isn't it funny how traffic only affects certain people? This attitude of avoiding responsibilities is like an Olympic sport for some people. And let me tell you, they are golden athletes in the evasion Olympics. But seriously, a lack of accountability is a clear sign that we are dealing with someone potentially toxic. These people have a PhD in blaming others and a master's degree in playing the victim. They are like magicians, but instead of pulling rabbits out of hats, they make excuses out of thin air. Psychologist Dr. John Grohol explains that this tendency to avoid responsibility is often rooted in a deep fear of failure or criticism. It is as if these people have an invisible shield that deflects all responsibility. Now, how can we deal with these champions of evasion? First, stay calm. Remember, their lack of responsibility says more about them than it does about you. Second, be firm. When someone tries to unfairly blame you, don't be afraid to set clear boundaries. Imagine you are in a play and your scene partner forgets his lines. Instead of improvising or assuming his mistake, he blames you in front of the entire audience. What are you doing? Simple. Don't play their game. Maintain your composure and get on with the work. It's important to remember that you can't change these people, but you can change how you react to them. As the philosopher Epictetus would say, it is not things that disturb us, but our judgment about things. So the next time you encounter someone who evades responsibilities like it's an extreme sport, take a deep breath and remember, their lack of responsibility is not your responsibility. You continue to shine. Those who don't want to see will put on sunglasses. Before moving on to the 5th sign, if you are liking the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel with the bell so you don't miss future videos. And if you enjoy this type of content as much as I do, comment, "I love wisdom." Let's continue learning together and improving our lives. Number 5. Habit of lying. Imagine that you are at a meeting with friends and someone tells a story so incredible that it seems like something out of a movie. Everyone listens with their mouths open, but you have that feeling in your stomach that something doesn't add up. Does it sound familiar to you? Well, you could be dealing with a compulsive liar. Psychologist Robert Feldman of the University of Massachusetts discovered that in a 10-minute conversation, most people lie at least 3 times. Surprising, right? But here's the interesting thing. People with malevolent tendencies raise this number to stratospheric levels. These people have turned lying into an art. They are like painters, but instead of using brushes and colors, they use words to create alternative realities. And the worst thing is that they do it with a frightening ease. As my grandmother would say, they lie more than they talk. But why do they do it? Well, it's not that they have a long nose like Pinocchio, but they do have something in common with him. They lie to obtain benefits. Whether to impress, manipulate, or simply for the pleasure of deceiving, these deception artists have no limits. Now, don't fall into the trap of thinking that all lies are the same. It's one thing to tell your partner that you love their new haircut, even if it looks like it was done by a blind gardener. But it's quite another to fabricate entire stories to manipulate others. The philosopher Immanuel Kant said that lying was morally wrong in all circumstances. But let's face it, we've all told a white lie. The difference is in the intention and frequency. People with malevolent tendencies lie like they breathe. They may invent achievements, exaggerate abilities, or even create non-existent drama. And the worst thing is that they do it looking you in the eyes, with a conviction that would make even the most skeptical doubt. And do you know what is the most dangerous? That these lies not only affect the truth, but can have real consequences in our lives. Imagine trusting someone who constantly lies to you about their financial situation, or worse yet, about their feelings towards you. But all is not lost, friends. There are ways to detect these wizards of lies. Pay attention to inconsistencies in their stories, watch their body language, and above all, trust your instincts. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. According to studies conducted by the University of Massachusetts, people unconsciously touch their nose when we lie. Yes, like Pinocchio. So the next time someone tells you an incredible story while scratching their nose, you know where they're going. Another clue is when someone avoids eye contact, or on the contrary, stares at you without blinking. It's like they're thinking, if I don't blink, he'll think I'm telling the truth, right? Spoiler, it doesn't work that way. Also, pay attention to changes in tone of voice or overly elaborate responses. If they even tell you the color of the socks they were wearing when something supposedly happened, they are probably making up the story as they go along. So remember, as the great Mark Twain said, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. So the next time you encounter someone who seems to live in their own alternate reality, put on the glasses of truth and look beyond the pretty words. Your peace of mind will thank you. Number 6, the one resistant to change. Have you ever come across someone who seems stuck in the past as if time has stopped for them? Imagine a rock in the middle of a river. While the water flows around it, adapting and evolving, the rock remains motionless. That's how these people are. They cling to their old customs and beliefs as if they were a lifeline in the midst of an ocean of change. That's just me. Take it or leave it, they will tell you proudly. But is that really something to be proud of? The Greek philosopher Heraclitus already said it more than 2,500 years ago. The only thing constant is change. And boy, was he right, don't you think? These people are like a broken record, repeating the same mistakes over and over again. If you point out problematic behavior, they will hide behind phrases like, "That's just how I am," or "I've always been this way," as if that were a valid excuse for not improving. But be careful, let's not fall into the trap of judging. Often, this resistance to change is born out of fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failing, fear of discovering that maybe they are not as great as they thought. It's as if they live in a comfortable but suffocating bubble. The dangerous thing is that if we surround ourselves with these people, we run the risk of becoming one of them. It's like the saying, "Tell me who you hang out with and I'll tell you who you are." Before you know it, you could be repeating their same excuses. That's why, friends, it's crucial that we surround ourselves with people who inspire us to be better people. Look for those who challenge you, who push you outside your comfort zone. As businessman Jim Rohn once said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Number 7, the exploitation of kindness. Imagine your friend Sophia for a moment. She is always willing to help, lend money, listen to other people's problems. An angel, right? But what happens when someone decides to take advantage of that kindness? That's where evil people come in, those manipulation experts who see kindness as a weakness to be exploited. Psychologist Dr. Albert J. Bernstein explains it brilliantly. Toxic people are like emotional vacuum cleaners. They leave you feeling empty and exhausted. And boy, is he right. These individuals have a radar to detect kind souls and do not hesitate to take advantage of them. But how do they do it? Well, they use tactics such as emotional blackmail, empty promises, and guilt. If you were really my friend, you would lend me money. I swear this is the last time I will ask you for a favor. I can't believe you abandoned me when I need you most. Do these phrases sound familiar to you? If so, be careful. You could be facing an exploiter of kindness. Now all is not lost. Philosopher Immanuel Kant reminds us that goodness is the only investment that never goes bankrupt. And he's right, but that doesn't mean we should allow others to abuse our generosity. The key is to set clear boundaries and learn to say no without feeling guilty. And how do we do this? Well, first, recognize your value. Your time, your energy, and your resources are valuable. You don't have to apologize for taking care of yourself. Second, learn to identify warning signs. If someone only looks for you when they need something, if they never return favors, if they make you feel guilty for not pleasing them, set off the alarms, but be careful. It is not about becoming distrustful or stopping helping others. It's about being wise in our goodness. As writer Ayn Rand once said, don't say you have a duty to help someone. If you do, do it because you want to. This phrase reminds us that true kindness is born of will, not obligation. So, dear friends, the next time someone tries to take advantage of your good heart, remember, your kindness is a gift, not a right. You can be kind without being a rug. You can help without exhausting yourself. And above all, you can be good to yourself while still being good to others. That is true wisdom. Number 8. Have you ever had that uncomfortable feeling that something isn't right with someone close to you, but you can't put your finger on exactly what it is? Well, friends, get ready, because today we're going to explore a crucial signal that could be right under our noses, warnings from our loved ones. Imagine this. You're in a relationship that seems perfect, but your friends and family keep frowning every time you mention your partner. Does it sound familiar to you? Well, you are not alone. It turns out that our inner circle can often detect warning signs that we miss. Psychologist Dr. John Gottman, known as the relationship guru, reminds us that sometimes we are so blinded by love, or what we think is love, that we ignore the most obvious red flags. But why should we pay attention to what others say? Think of it as if you were a detective in your own life. Your friends and family are like your investigative partners, offering you valuable clues that could solve the mystery of whether you're dealing with someone truly toxic. Now, we're not saying that you should run in terror every time your Aunt Paquita wrinkles her nose at the sight of your new boyfriend. But if you start to notice a pattern, it might be time to take off your rose-colored glasses and take a closer look. A classic example is that of Maria and Carlos. Maria was madly in love with Carlos, but her friends kept warning her about his controlling behavior. "He cares about me," she said. But when Carlos began to isolate her from her friends and criticize every decision she made, Maria finally realized that her friends were right all along. The philosopher Aristotle once said, "A friend is a soul inhabiting 2 bodies." And boy, was he right. Our real friends can often see things that we can't, simply because they have a different perspective. But be careful. It's not about becoming paranoid and distrusting everyone. It's about finding a balance between trusting your instinct and valuing the opinion of those who love you most. After all, those people around you are the ones who will be there to pick up the pieces if things go wrong. So the next time your best friend says to you, "Hey, don't you think so-and-so is a little weird? Instead of getting defensive, take a moment to reflect. They may be doing you a huge favor without you realizing it. And remember, at the end of the day, you are the protagonist of your own story. But it doesn't hurt to have a good team of advisors, right? After all, as we say in my town, 4 eyes see more than 2. Or in this case, the eyes of all your loved ones see more than just yours blinded by love. Number 9. Contempt. Imagine this. You're excited about a new project at work and you decide to share it with your partner. Instead of support, you get a cold stare and a cutting comment. Do you really think you can do it? Don't be naive. That, my friends, is the face of contempt. Contempt is like a slow poison that infiltrates your thoughts and undermines your confidence. It is the preferred weapon of those who seek to manipulate you emotionally. They make you doubt your abilities, your dreams, and even your value as a person. But why would anyone do something like that? Well, as famous psychologist John Gottman would say, contempt is the biggest predictor of divorce in relationships. And not only in love, but in any type of relationship. It's toxic people's way of feeling superior at the expense of your well-being. Now, let's not confuse contempt with constructive criticism. The difference is in the intention. Constructive criticism seeks to help you improve, while contempt only seeks to bring you down. It's like the difference between a coach who pushes you to do your best and a bully who enjoys watching you fall. And here's a curious fact. According to studies from the University of Washington, contempt not only affects your mind, but also your body. People who are constantly put down are more likely to get sick. So be careful. Contempt not only hurts, it can also make you sneeze. But not all is lost. Recognizing contempt is the first step to protecting yourself. The next time someone criticizes your dreams, your appearance, or your achievements in a way that makes you feel small, stand tall and remember, their words say more about them than they do about you. As the great philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, the opinion that others have of you does not belong to you. So don't let the disparaging opinions of others define who you are or what you can achieve. In short, contempt is like that friend who always has something negative to say about your new haircut. No matter how fabulous you look, he will always find a way to make you feel bad. But remember, your value is not in their words, but in your heart and your actions. So the next time someone tries to put you down, smile and think, thanks for the opinion I didn't ask for. I'll put it away with all the other things I don't care about. And keep shining, because that inner light of yours is precisely what toxic people can't stand to see. Number 10. Abuse animals. Let us remember the wise words of philosopher Immanuel Kant. We can judge a person's heart by his treatment of animals. And boy, was he right. But be careful, we are not just talking about extreme acts of cruelty. Sometimes abuse is disguised as neglect or indifference. That neighbor who leaves his dog on the balcony all day under the scorching sun, or the friend who forgets to feed his cat. These actions, although less dramatic, are equally revealing. Now, what can we do if we find ourselves faced with a situation like this? First, don't look away. Indifference is complicit in abuse. Second, if it is safe to do so, intervene politely but firmly. And third, don't hesitate to seek professional help if the situation requires it. Remember, having an animal is not only a right, it is a responsibility. As the writer Milan Kundera said, the true goodness of man can only manifest itself with absolute cleanliness and freedom in relation to those who do not represent any force. The true moral test of humanity is its relationships with those who are at its mercy, animals. So the next time you meet someone new, pay attention to how they treat animals. He could be revealing more about his character to you than you would ever imagine. And you, how do you treat the beings that depend on you? Number 11. Absence of remorse. Have you ever encountered someone who seems to have no conscience? Imagine being in front of someone who has just committed a terrible action, but instead of apologizing, they look at you with a smile. Creepy, right? Well, that's how people act without remorse. The famous psychologist Robert Hare, an expert in psychopathy, describes this lack of remorse as a lack of moral conscience. It's like these people have a faulty emotional switch that never turns on. But how do you identify someone like that in your everyday life? Pay attention to these clues. 1. They never say, "I'm sorry" from the heart. If they apologize, it sounds as fake as a $3 bill. 2. They blame others for their mistakes. "It wasn't my fault, it was yours for not explaining it to me well." 3. They minimize the damage they cause. "Come on, it's no big deal. It was just a little joke." 4. They get upset if you ask them to take responsibility. "Why do you always make me feel guilty?" 5. They change the subject quickly when you point out their mistakes. The philosopher Immanuel Kant said that moral conscience is what makes us truly human. So what happens to those who lack it? Don't worry, we're not suggesting they're aliens, even though they sometimes seem that way. A study from the University of Cambridge revealed that people without regrets have reduced brain activity in areas related to empathy. It's as if your compassion muscle is atrophied. But be careful. Do not confuse the absence of remorse with the ability to forgive yourself. It's one thing to learn from mistakes and move on, and quite another to not acknowledge them at all. So what to do if you identify someone like this in your life? First, don't try to fix them. You are not an emotional repair shop. Instead, set clear boundaries and maintain a healthy distance. Remember, your emotional well-being is like a garden. Don't let someone without remorse trample you like an elephant in a glass shop. And if you're wondering if you yourself might be remorseless, the mere fact that you're wondering is a good sign. Truly evil people rarely ask themselves if they are evil. So keep your eyes open, friend. The next time someone hurts you and looks at you like nothing happened, you know what's going on. It's not that they have hearts of stone, it's that their guilt detector is more broken than a clock without hands. Let's now go to the last sign. Number 12. Envy. Imagine envy as a poison that contaminates the soul. Psychologist Robert Plutchik described it as one of the basic human emotions, but be careful, basic does not mean harmless. It's like that friend who's always hungry. Natural, yes, but potentially dangerous for your refrigerator. Envy manifests itself in forms as varied as ice cream flavors. It could be that friend who minimizes your achievements, or the co-worker who accidentally forgets to mention your contribution to the STAR project. As Aristotle said, envy is pain for the good of others, and it hurts, both for the one who feels it and for the one who receives it. But why is envy a warning sign? Well, it turns out that envious people are like emotional vampires. They feed on your happiness and success. A study from the University of California revealed that chronic envy can lead to sabotaging and manipulative behaviors. Still, it turns out that envy isn't all bad. Surprised? I was too when I discovered it. Imagine that you have a friend who constantly inspires you. That healthy envy can be a powerful engine for your personal growth. As the philosopher Aristotle said, envy is pain for the good of others. But what if we transformed that pain into motivation? Think about it like this. We are the average of the 5 people we interact with the most. If you surround yourself with negativity, guess what you will become? But if you choose to surround yourself with ambitious and positive people, your chances of achieving your dreams skyrocket. Have you ever wondered why some famous YouTubers live together in mansions? It's not just to save on rent, I assure you. A Harvard University study showed that envy can increase creativity and productivity in competitive environments. So the next time you feel envious, ask yourself, what can I learn from this person? But be careful, there is a fine line between constructive and destructive envy. Psychologist Sarah Pratasi describes it as the difference between wanting to be like someone and wanting that someone to fail. And this is where toxic people cross the line. So how do you identify someone with unhealthy envy? Look for these signs: constant criticism, joy at the failure of others, and an inability to celebrate the achievements of others. If you know someone like this, maybe it's time to rethink that relationship. Remember, envy can be your worst enemy or your best teacher. You choose. And as the great philosopher Seneca would say, we become better by competing with the best. So the next time you feel envy, use it as fuel for your own growth. Who knows? Maybe you are the one who inspires envy of the good. If you've made it this far, write in the comments, "I'm worth a lot," so I'll know who the victors are who made it to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more content like this in the future. Share this video with those who may find it useful, and consider supporting the channel by becoming a member. Link in the posted comment. Now I recommend you watch one of these two videos so that you continue learning about Stoicism and human psychology. A big hug, and until next time.